This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. Today I wanted to go back and do the next part of stars in my tumbling block quilt that I've been working on. Three things I wanted to accomplish today is to look back at putting the actual rows together. Once you've got the star done and the cream added, then when you start making, you made your rows, then we're going to put those together. The second thing I want to look at is trimming the edge of the tumbling block quilt. And then the third thing is looking at two ideas related to the Cathedral Window quilts that we've been talking about. So let's start with number one, and I've got it pinned together. This is going to be one of those up close again, and you can remember I've got my start and stops, and I've got those pinned. I've gone into the center, and I have my point opened up, pinned from the front to the back, and I want to stitch all the way through there. So to do this and get this to work, I'm going to start here, and I start with a knot, and I actually go back through it again, and then I'm going to make small running stitches. And with this particular needle, it's pretty stout and it's pretty sharp. You can see I'm doing pretty good. Now the trick though is to look at the back. We've talked and looked at that before. You can take him out and see if it's catching. It's a little not catching, so we're going to improve that by digging deeper and making it more solid all the way across there, because I wanted to get to the next part for you. And you remember that when we did this, we tried to get this point, the 2 points together, because that's the pretty part, one of the pretty parts of this quilt. And I have a story to tell you. The reason I'm going back and looking at this, you can see I started on the left this time, and I know where the beginning and the end is, and there's nowhere else that I have to go over here on this end, because that's the end of it. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. The funny part was I had started, one night we were watching a movie, and I started over on the right-hand side and was moving towards my left. And I thought, oh, this is going so good. I know just exactly what I'm doing. I don't have to open this up and check it. Well, let me tell you, I actually took the row and had it going around the other row. Instead of just going by the row, it went around it. So guess who had to get the ripper out? And I got that taken apart, and then I was back on track. And so that's really what I'm showing you here. Like, here is where I started from on that one. Okay, now I'm going to take and do some turning, because my next piece is up here on the top that I want to go to. And so I'm actually going to take and move everything, and I'm going to move that back part row that I'm working on, so that it is nice. And I found that if I pulled this piece out, I wouldn't be sewing it. So then I come in and pin it, and then I'm going to go ahead where my center is again, and I'm going to open both of those up. Everybody thinks, oh, there's nothing. I can make a quilt. I can make a blanket. And there's just a lot of little things that make your life a little happier. So, and then I'm going to open this one back up and pin it. And then I'm ready to start again. And just because I'm right-handed, I just start over here on my right and stitch across. And if you look on the right-hand side, I've got this part. It's out, so I don't catch it. So once I got that part done, then I would start by turning again. And I'd pull this left piece out. There's a pin in the way right now. And then I would take and turn the whole thing so that I could pin it again and go across there. And, you know, with quilting, there's a lot of different ways that people can do things. And when you start doing it, you'll find things that make you happy, and you get the result that you want. So that was number one, was just looking at that row, so you don't do what I did and have to go back and take it out. And the second thing we want to do is look at trimming the tumbling block quilt. Here's the tumbling block quilt with the rows sewn together. And when you get finished, there's sort of a pointy edge on two edges, and you want to trim those off. I looked at that and thought of different ways that I could do it that might look different, and I just finally said, I think I'm just going to do like they did and in the book, and then just trim it off. And what you'll find is that as you lay your ruler on the quilt, you can see I did that before I put the sandwich together. Don't get confused there. Only working with the top to cut off the edge. And if you see, my ruler is sitting right there, and there was a natural place all the way across that would hit for all of the pieces. And so I cut that end off. Then I repeated on the other end. Once I got the top cut like I wanted it, then I did a really good press job. And this is funny, but I like to press the back because there's just something that looks different. And then, I don't know, but I pressed the back really good so everything's laying down. And then I had to look in the shelf and find some fabric. Well, there was a piece, this is odd, that just happened to be the right size in that kit that I had. There was one 3-yard piece, and this quilt, the way the measurements were from last time, was like 56 by 60 or 60 and a half. I was able to work that 3 yards to make the backing, and I had like maybe a foot left. And I'll think I put the directions. I'll put them again if I didn't put them in the last lesson that we had. So then I laid the backing after I pressed it, laid it out, and then I put the batting, and it was larger, and I've cut it down already, you can see, and then I laid the top on it. And I always used to, when I first started, I basted, and then when I started working on the hoop, I would just lay it very carefully with the middle part in the middle, and then I worked out. I didn't have pins or stitching to hold it together, basting. But then when I started doing it on the sewing machine to do some of that quilting, I started using this pins, the quilt pins, and I really like those because even now, if I'm hand stitching in my hoop, I'll use the pins because between the batting being so soft and holding the material and the pins, it works really well. So this is ready for either my sewing machine or the quilt rack, and I'm having a hard time because I know that if I quilt it on the rack, it's going to look so, it's going to be pretty, and I've really been thinking about patterns for this on the sewing machine. And the third thing that I wanted to hit in this short video was about starting to think about your label. And my neighbor and I, we've had that video about her Cathedral Window quilt, and it was finished. I had the little piece she needed sewn on there together, and we came up with what she wanted on there. And what we did was this was a pre-made label that came on a panel, and I just cut this one square out. And it's the Cathedral Window, so people would know what it is if they didn't. And I put made by. There's my neighbor's name, social circle. And this was during the late 60s and during the 70s. So we put 1970 in there. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. Thank you for watching. Any notes that I have will be added to the description. If this was helpful or fun, then please subscribe and hit like. And I like comments. Those are very enjoyable, and questions. Thank you for watching.